Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India NewsHour, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lynn. Namaskar. Coming up in the next hour. India urges Bangladeshi authorities to ensure safety and security of minority communities. Bangladesh's Financial Intelligence Unit freezes the bank accounts of 17 people associated with ISKCON. Much awaited nuclear talks with Iran on in Geneva. Fighting in northwest Syria sparks global concern. Russia urges Assad government to restore constitutional order in Aleppo. The UK Parliament votes for the End of Life Bill. The lawmakers in favour of euthanasia. No consensus achieved on the schedule of the Champions Trophy 2025 at the International Cricket Council's board meeting, which took place virtually. A decision on this issue to be taken in the next few days. Protests continue for the release of the former ISKCON monk Chinmoy Krishna, who is under arrest in Bangladesh on charges of sedition. The Bangladeshi authorities have frozen the bank accounts of 17 people associated with the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. This action comes after the Bangladesh's High Court had rejected the petition to ban ISKCON, stating that the current situation does not warrant such a move. Now, the government of India has once again urged the Bangladeshi authorities to ensure the safety of minorities. The Indian government has responded to the situation in Bangladesh. The Ministry of External Affairs on Friday expressed deep concern over the violence against Hindus and once again urged the Bangladeshi authorities to ensure the safety and security of minority communities.
The interim government must live up to its responsibility of protecting all minorities. We are concerned at the surge of extremist rhetoric, increasing incidents of violence and provocation. These developments cannot be dismissed only as media exaggerations.
Indian political leaders across the political spectrum have called for the protection of Hindus in Bangladesh. Protests in different parts of India, from Kolkata to Jammu, show solidarity with the Hindu minority and other minorities in Bangladesh. Massive protests were held in Kolkata, organized by the Hindu Jagran Manch, demanding the release of the Hindu monk Chinmoy Krishna. The protests will not die down. The BJP leader Suvendu Adhikari revealing plans for the next few days.
I
appeal to all true nationalists. Boycott Bangladesh. Every day we have processions, Hindu processions. Tomorrow there will be 2 big processions, taking the flag with the slogan of Jai Shri Ram. It will be held in Jadavpur and in Prasar. On Monday, we will have a big protest near Petropol, wherever we get permission.
ISKCON has always denied allegations that it was linked to violent protests, emphasizing its commitment to peaceful coexistence. The Bangladesh High Court rejected a petition to ban ISKCON, stating that the current situation does not warrant such a measure. The Indian government has vouched for the good character and service of ISKCON.
We see ISKCON as a globally well-regarded organization with a strong record of social service.
However, Bangladesh's Financial Intelligence Unit has ordered the freezing of bank accounts of 17 people associated with the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, ISKCON Bangladesh, including its former leader, Chinmoy Krishna Brahmachari.
We have a responsibility because we enable Bangladesh to be free and independent. Now, whatever the change of government has been in Bangladesh, it cannot be acceptable that religious minorities are persecuted in this way.
The incoming Trump administration in the US has commented on the situation in Bangladesh. Johnny Moore, a former advisor to President-elect Donald Trump, described the violence against minorities in Bangladesh as an existential threat and put the blame squarely on the interim head, Mohammed Yunus.
Well, I can tell you,
If you're a religious minority in the country and you're wondering whether you're going to live tomorrow, it's a very, very big deal. And it is the first responsibility of any government to protect these people. Muhammad Yunus is failing. That's what's happening. And he better fix it right away.
The interim government of Bangladesh, led by Mohammed Yunus, is pursuing charges of crimes against humanity against former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina at the International Criminal Court. The pursuit of these charges is likely to further strain relations between India and Bangladesh. Hasina has been provided shelter in India. She has called for the immediate release of Chinmoy Krishna Das, who was arrested on charges of sedition. Bureau Report, DD India. And joining us on the phone line from Dhaka is our correspondent Naval Singh Parmar. Naval Singh, has there been, any assurance from the interim government towards safeguarding the interests and the security of minorities?
Well, again, the advisor of the government, interim government of Bangladesh, are saying that they are taking appropriate measures to provide safety and security to all the nationals of Bangladesh, including minorities. However, there are incidents have been noticed earlier, but after the death of the advocate in Chittagong court,
right,
there is no any rally or procession from the minorities, or I may say Hindus in Bangladesh, maybe out of fear that there may be attack or there may be some sorts of police may arrest, because there are unnamed we can say person in the FIR. Second thing, not only the Hindus, but today one incident is there in the social media, and the one Dargah Sharif in Sherpur district of North Bangladesh have been attacked by the fundamentalist. Second thing, the Hifazat-e-Islam, a fundamentalist organization in Bangladesh, took out a rally in Dhaka demanding strict punishment for the those who were involved in the murder of junior advocate in Chittagong, as well as they are demanding ban on the ISKCON.
Right.
So these are the development in the last 2 days. Apart from government also trying to provide securities in the Dhaka and Chittagong and other cities of Bangladesh, but the police force here in Bangladesh is not having a confidence, self-confidence, and the law and order situation here in Bangladesh is in chaotic condition because of the police force own problem.
Right, and also Mr. Parmar, what is the update on Chinmoy Krishna Das?
On 2 days back, he has been sent to judicial custody, and after that there were a protest in Chittagong court. So his appeal for the bail could not be here on Wednesday and Thursday, and Friday and Saturday being a holiday in Bangladesh, he is in judicial custody now.
Okay, we leave it there. Thank you very much. Naval Singh Parmar, our correspondent, Prasar Bharati special correspondent, joining us from Dhaka. Now, the first week of the winter session of Parliament was washed out. The week, in fact, was marred by uproarious scenes due to repeated disruptions and adjournments in both houses of Parliament. Let's take a look.
No business could be transacted in the first week of the winter session of Indian Parliament. On Friday too, Congress Member of Parliament created an uproar in the Lok Sabha on the Adani issue. Though during the question hour, Union Minister J.P. Nadda tried to answer questions related to the Health Ministry. However, due to ruckus created by the opposition, the proceedings of the House had to be adjourned till 11 a.m. on Monday. At the same time, the Rajya Sabha, the proposal to extend the term of the Joint Parliamentary Committee constituted for the Waqf Amendment Bill was tabled in the House. But in the upper house too, it was no different. The House had to be adjourned till Monday.
Rule 267 is being weaponized as a mechanism of disruption and disruption from our normal working. There are very senior members. This cannot be appreciated. I express my deep anguish.
The ruling Bharatiya Janata Party attacked the opposition on the continuous uproar in the House. The government also condemned the opposition for the disruptions. Since the beginning of the winter session, all the bills slated for the day could not come up for discussion due to repeated disruptions. Vishal Baristo's report for DD India.
India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar met the Deputy Prime Minister of Fiji, Manawa Kamikamika, on Friday in New Delhi. Both leaders discussed the potential of organic farming, technology, applications and digital tools. The Deputy Prime Minister of Fiji praised the cooperatives and other development programs in India. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in Odisha for the DGIGP conference, which is taking place for the first time in the eastern Indian state of Odisha. India's Prime Minister reached Bhubaneswar in the evening of Friday, where he was felicitated upon his arrival on stage amid chants of "Long live Mother India." He was also presented a huge garland and a traditional scarf in the presence of other dignitaries. Addressing the mass of people gathered to welcome him, the Prime Minister said that after the formation of a double-engine government in Odisha, development in every sector has gained momentum.
उड़ीसा में डबल इंजन की सरकार बनने के बाद यहाँ हर सेक्टर में विकास ने नई गति पकड़ ली है। ओडिशा में एक साथ हजारों करोड़ के इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर परियोजनाओं पर काम शुरू हुआ है। सरकार की कल्याणकारी योजनाओं का फायदा हर वर्ग को मिलना शुरू हुआ है। खेल हो, शिक्षा हो, पर्यटन हो, हर क्षेत्र में ओडिशा ने जो रफ्तार पकड़ी है वह अभूतपूर्व है। ओडिशा के शहरों में आधुनिक सुविधाएं, नई नई सुविधाएं जोड़ी जा रही हैं और राज्य की भाजपा सरकार यहां स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम डेवलप करने पर फोकस कर रही है। नौजवानों का उज्जवल भविष्य का शिलान्यास हो रहा है। राज्य की धरोहर को समृद्ध बनाने का अभियान भी तेज गति से चलाया जा रहा है। मिशन पूर्वोदय से भी उड़ीसा का विकास की नई रफ्तार पकड़ रहा है।
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be attending the All India Conference of Director Generals and Inspector Generals of Police. This is from the 30th of November to the 1st of December in Bhubaneswar in Odisha state. The three-day conference will include deliberations on critical components of national security, including counter-terrorism, left-wing extremism, new criminal laws and narcotics. The President's Police Medal for Distinguished Service will also be awarded during the conference. The seminar will also be attended by the Union Home Minister Amit Shah. Still to come here on DD India News Hour. Russia intensifies its attacks on Ukraine. Chad says it has ended defense cooperation with France. Two centre-right coalition partners are neck and neck in Ireland.
We are living in times where things are changing at an unforeseen pace. And at the forefront of many of these positive changes are strong individuals who are looking towards the future.
Through the stories I tell, I try and sort of reignite that intuitive sense of how close we are to nature and how much there is to learn from it.
Organic farming, it also helps you not only reduce the carbon footprint, but also help adapt because you are promoting natural farming.
Very lightweight, but it makes you feel that you don't have to eat too much. In this NFT channel, we use net cups with cocoa peats on it. This helps to penetrate the roots. There will be nutritious water flowing through the channel that supplies essential nutrients for the plant.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Well, Iran, Britain, France and Germany met in Geneva on Friday under a shroud of secrecy to discuss Tehran's nuclear program. Iran insists on its right to nuclear energy for peaceful purposes, but according to the International Atomic Energy Agency, it's the only non-nuclear weapon state enriching uranium to 60%. The meetings in Geneva came after Tehran was irked by the European-backed resolution last week that criticized Iran's cooperation with the UN nuclear watchdog. while the United Kingdom's foreign intelligence chief said that Iran's nuclear ambitions pose a major global security threat.
DGSE and SIS share reporting insights so that discussions about peace can benefit from a common intelligence picture. Iran's allied militias across the Middle East have suffered serious blows, but the regime's nuclear ambitions continue to threaten all of us, especially friends of France and the UK in the Gulf region.
Well, Russia has intensified its attacks on Ukraine, targeting energy infrastructure and causing widespread power outages as winter sets in. Meanwhile, Moscow also claims gains in Donbass as Kiev vows to strengthen defenses. President Biden has condemned Russia's actions, reaffirming the U.S. support for Ukraine alongside over 50 allied nations. DD India's Tripti Tripathi reports.
The nearly 3-year conflict between Russia and Ukraine has intensified, with Moscow targeting Ukraine's energy infrastructure in a series of aerial assaults with its hypersonic missiles. As winter sets in, these attacks have led to widespread power outages, further straining the country. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said that Kremlin's promotion of a new hypersonic missile was aimed at disrupting attempts to end the conflict, particularly by US President-elect Donald Trump.
Putin can go on wielding his Orishnik missile as he wants to escalate the situation to such an extent so that President Trump's attempt will fail. More than that, Putin wants to prevent others from ending this war.
Amid reports of North Korea sending troops to Russia in Ukraine, the defense minister of North Korea and Russia held talks in Pyongyang and lauded expanding military cooperation between the two countries.
The most important result of the summit was the signing of new fundamental interstate document, the Comprehensive Strategic Partnership Treaty. It is indeed to play a stabilizing role in Northeast Asia, make a positive contribution to maintaining the balance of power in the region, and reduce the risk of a reoccurrence of the war on the peninsula.
Back on ground, Russia launched over 100 drones overnight and early Friday, killing 1 person and injuring 8 others. In retaliation, Ukraine struck the Atlas oil depot in Russia's Rostov region, which is a key supplier of fuel to the Russian army. Ukrainian Army Chief Alexander Syrsky announced plans to bolster troops on the Eastern Front with reserves, ammunition and equipment as fighting in the region escalates. In Washington, United States President Joe Biden condemned Russia's latest strikes as outrageous, reaffirming America's support for Ukraine alongside 50 other nations. Moscow, however, justified the strikes as retaliation for Ukraine's use of US-supplied ATACMS missile on Russian territory. Tripti Tripathi's report for DD India.
UK's Parliament voted in favour of a new bill to legalise assisted dying on Friday that has divided the country and raised questions about the standard of palliative care. After heavy debate in the House of Commons, or the lower house of the Parliament there, 330 lawmakers voted in favour of the Terminally Ill Adults Bill with 275 against. The vote will start months of further debate and the bill could be changed as it wends its way through the House of Commons and the upper house, which is the House of Lords. Kim Leadbeater, who's the lawmaker from the Labour Party who introduced this bill, has said that she expects the process to take a further 6 months. Chad's government said on Thursday that it has ended its defense cooperation pact with France, a move that could see French troops leave the Central African country. In a statement, Chad's foreign ministry said that the country, a key Western ally in the fight against Islamic militants in the region, wanted to fully assert its sovereignty after more than 6 decades of independence. It said the decision to end the defense cooperation agreement, revised in 2019, would enable it to redefine its strategic partnerships. Chad has cooperated closely with Western nations' military forces in the past, but it has moved closer to Russia in recent years.
This is a fruitful visit that will strengthen our bilateral relations in every respect. France is an essential partner, but it must now also consider that Chad has grown up, Chad has matured, Chad is a sovereign state that is very jealous of its sovereignty.
Jihadists and Turkish-backed allies launched a major offensive on the western outskirts of Aleppo, sparking some of the deadliest fighting in Syria in years. This escalated violence has drawn global concern, with Russia urging the Syrian government to restore order in the region. The conflict, now involving multiple foreign powers, has become a complex and ongoing struggle.
These are the visuals from the Rashidin district in the western outskirts of the city of Aleppo in Syria, where jihadists and their Turkish-backed allies shelled Syria's second city, Aleppo. It was the major offensive against government troops that has sparked some of the deadliest fighting the country has seen in years. The fighting in northwest Syria has sparked concerns at global level. Russia urged the Syrian government to restore constitutional order in the Aleppo region as soon as possible.
I have nothing to say to this effect. This is one. Of course, this is an attempt to violate Syria's sovereignty in this region. We do want the Syrian authorities to restore order in this area as soon as possible.
The Syrian army reported heavy losses inflicted on what it called terrorists in a surprise attack on a wide front. The violence has resulted in at least 242 deaths, including both combatants and civilians. The Kurdish-dominated Syrian Defense Forces controls most of northeastern Syria. It regularly clashes with Arab tribes that accuse the group of discrimination. Turkey and its proxies also control areas along the northern border and have ramped up attacks on Kurdish forces. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad now controls about 70% of Syria's territory. Turkish troops have been involved in ground operations against the Islamic State since 2016 and have launched attacks against armed Kurdish groups in Syria. When the civil war began in 2011, there were four main factions of fighting groups throughout the country. They are Kurdish forces, ISIS, other opposition such as Jaish al-Fateh and Assad regime. The ongoing violence against civilians has been condemned by the Arab League, the European Union, the United States and other countries. Approximately 5.5 million Syrian refugees live in the 5 countries neighboring Syria: Turkey, Lebanon, Jordan, Iraq and Egypt. Germany is the largest non-neighboring host country with more than 850,000 Syrian refugees. Over the years, the conflict has evolved into a complex war involving jihadists and foreign powers. While the Syrian army has regained control of most of the territory it lost earlier in the war, the area where jihadists and their allies are based has been under a truce since 2020. Rabindra Chauhan's report for DD India.
Israel said its air force struck a facility used by Hezbollah to store mid-range rockets in southern Lebanon on Thursday, after both sides accused each other of breaching a ceasefire that aims to halt over a year of fighting. Israeli military said it also opened fire on Thursday towards what it called suspects with vehicles arriving at several areas in the southern zone, saying that it was a breach of the truce with Iran-backed armed group Hezbollah, which came into effect on Wednesday. Hezbollah lawmaker Hassan Fadlallah in turn accused Israel of violating the ceasefire several times on Wednesday and on Thursday.
Today's message must be completed by having a national decision, first, to build a strong, just and capable state, and second, by having an army with the most modern weapons, and for its decision to be that of cabinet and government to counter any Israeli violation. There are violations today by Israel. Even in this form, we are with the state countering and carrying out its full role. That is why we say it too.
Well, further, Israeli army has prohibited displaced Lebanese from returning to their homes in southern Lebanon. The military released a map of Lebanon's south and warned that Lebanese residents are not allowed to enter the area until further notice. The exchange of accusations highlighted the fragility of the ceasefire, which was brokered by the United States and France to end the conflict fought in parallel with the Gaza war. The truce lasts for 60 days in the hope of reaching a permanent cessation of hostilities. Israel's airstrikes on Thursday were the first since the truce took effect on Wednesday morning. And within a week of the US President-elect Donald Trump announcing his intention to put heavy tariffs on Mexico and Canada, the US current President Joe Biden has said that the move would be detrimental to American strategic interests. The outgoing US President Joe Biden was visiting a fire station in Nantucket, which is in Massachusetts, as part of a series of Thanksgiving meetings with various US department workers.
I think it's a counterproductive thing to do. You know, look, one of the things you've heard me say before that we have an unusual situation in America. We're surrounded by the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, and two allies, Mexico and Canada. And the last thing we need to do is begin to screw up those relationships. I think we've got them in a good place. I think by the way, you know, the cooperation with the outgoing president and the incoming president, the illegal crossings are down considerably to what they were back when he was in office. There's a lot more to do, but I just think, I hope they reconsider.
Police clashed with protesters in the Georgian capital Tbilisi early on Friday after the country's ruling party said the government would suspend talks on European Union's accession and also refuse budgetary grants until 2028. Police ordered protesters to disperse fired water cannon and deployed pepper spray and tear gas as masked young people tried to smash their way into the parliament. Georgia's relations with the EU have deteriorated sharply in recent months as Brussels has alleged that the government has resorted to authoritarian measures and adopted a pro-Russian stand. Voting got underway in Ireland on Friday in a general election in which the two centre-right coalition partners are neck and neck with opposition party Sinn Féin after a campaign marked by rancour over housing and cost of living crises. So the Irish Prime Minister Simon Harris on Friday voted in the country's general election in his constituency of Greystones, County Wicklow, scenic seaside commuter town south of Dublin. Counting will start on Saturday morning with partial results expected throughout the day. The Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro on Thursday called for the implementation of a law mimicking the Australian ban on the use of social media for minors. During the podcast, Maduro also said that the Venezuelan migrants would return home once the US lifts the blockade against the South American country.
I agree. I believe all of this should be immediately regulated through a special law. I'm asking the Sovereign National Assembly to build consensus with the people. They should call on the youth so that we can create a good protection law like Australia did and like all countries in the world are doing.
Flooding in northern Malaysia and southern Thailand. The flooding has killed at least 8 people and forced tens of thousands from their homes. More than 80,000 people were evacuated to temporary shelters in Malaysia this week, with 4 deaths recorded across the northern states. More than 240,000 households in southern Thailand have been affected by the flooding, with 4 deaths reported. The weather offices of both countries have forecast heavy rain until Saturday. Thousands of emergency services personnel have also been deployed in the flood-prone states, along with rescue boats. Human activities are causing world temperatures to rise, posing serious threats to people and nature, but experts say urgent action on various fronts can still limit the worst effects of climate change. With more plastics and human-made chemicals being produced than the planet can afford or support, representatives of nearly 200 nations have gathered in South Korea's Busan to deliberate on a deal to curb plastic pollution, the result of which is expected by the end of this week. It is to be noted that just 9% of plastic is currently recycled globally. Further, if plastic production continues as planned by 2050, the accumulation of greenhouse gas emissions from plastic alone could use 10 to 13% of our entire remaining carbon budget. Well, next week, Saudi Arabia will host COP16 UN conference on land degradation and desertification. The UN chief, Antonio Guterres, has called the meeting a moonshot moment to protect and restore land and respond to drought. Land is considered degraded when its productivity has been harmed by human activities like pollution or deforestation. Desertification is also an extreme form of degradation. Another significant event is happening next week, and that's the world's top court is going to start unprecedented hearings aimed at finding a legal blueprint for how countries should protect the environment from damaging greenhouse gases and what the consequences are if they don't. From Monday, lawmakers and representatives from more than 100 countries and organizations will make submissions before the International Court of Justice in The Hague, the highest number ever. Activists hope that the legal opinion from the ICJ judges will have far-reaching consequences in the fight against climate change. Okay, still to come here on DD India NewsHour, we're going to be discussing the unfolding situation in Bangladesh. You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Mark Lynn. Here's a recap of our main stories. India urges Bangladeshi authorities to ensure safety and security of minority communities. Bangladesh's Financial Intelligence Unit freezes bank accounts of 17 people associated with ISKCON. Much-awaited nuclear talks with Iran on in Geneva. Fighting in northwest Syria sparks global concern. Russia urges Assad government to restore constitutional order in Aleppo. And going back to our top story, which is on the unfolding situation in Bangladesh, we are joined by Ambassador Veena Sikri, former senior diplomat who's also served as India's High Commissioner to Bangladesh. Thank you very much, ma'am, for being with us. Why do you think that there are no protection for minorities in Bangladesh? Let's come straight out with that.
Well, actually, the Bangladesh constitution, under which the present interim government has sworn its allegiance, that constitution has secularism and democracy enshrined in it. So actually, the protection for minorities is there even in the constitution. But we have seen since the 5th of August, since Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina left the country, that the prime source of attacks, the prime target for attacks has been the minority community in Bangladesh, the Hindus, the Christians, the Buddhists, the indigenous communities, and they have suffered terribly in the last 3 months with attacks on their homes and lootings and rapes and abductions, attacks on their economic livelihood and attacks on anything, on the temples, on their places of worship. Even during Durga Puja, there was the idol in a very famous temple, Jeshureshwari, was stolen during Durga Puja. And now, but the minority communities have organized themselves. They have said, we're not leaving, this is our country as well, we are citizens here, we want to stay, and they've made an 8-point demand to the government asking for a law for protection of minorities, asking for, checking all the people who've been attacking the minorities, giving them punishment, and asking for a ministry of minorities and so on. Simple things. But the rallies that they've been having, large, very well attended rallies, most recently in Rangpur and also earlier in Chittagong, these rallies have been attacked. And instead of pursuing the attacker and checking them, the Prasar Mohammad Yunus-led interim government has been arresting the people conducting the rally, just like Chinmoy Krishna.
So, Ambassador Sikri, This is a law and order situation, and when we saw the protests also that brought about this change in Bangladesh, much of it was related to the economy as well. Now, if the government of the day cannot bring about peace, then there can be economic stability. Surely the Nobel laureate who's in charge understands that.
Well, I think Professor Mohammed Yunus is just not in charge. He is unable to control the situation, and really it is the Jamaat-e-Islami, the radical Islamist groups who are controlling the situation, the Jamaat-e-Islami and the Hizb ut-Tahrir. And actually we've seen that in the reaction of the Bangladesh government. You know, the Indian government has taken this up with Bangladesh right from the early August. And, President Mohammed Yunus has telephoned our Prime Minister, spoken to him, assured him everything will be okay. But actually, it's not been okay. Yes. And actually, the people who need protection are not getting it. It is the prime responsibility of the Bangladesh government to look after their own citizens. But there is a complete chaos because, on the one hand, you have the Islamists walking in the streets saying they're going to kill people, they're going to kill ISKCON, they're going to end ISKCON. On the other hand, the government says they've asked for a ban on ISKCON, the court turns it down. So we don't know. The interim government, some people are saying there's no ban. Some people are still talking about ban. They're talking about bank accounts of the ISKCON people being frozen. There is complete confusion in Bangladesh, complete anarchy. And it is difficult to make out who is saying what to whom. And we do know that been criticism on the attacks on the minorities from all over the world. President Trump, before the election, spoke about it. And he called the situation in Bangladesh as chaotic. He called the attacks on Hindus and Christians as barbaric. And we know that there is a tremendous outpouring from the Indian diaspora, from the Bangladesh diaspora, from human rights groups. Why is this happening? And I really do sincerely take it up.
Right, Ambassador Sikri, I mean, why is this happening is also one can look at Bangladesh. This interim government has released Jashimuddin Rahmani from that ABT, the Ansarullah Bangla team, which is a terrorist organization. And now they want to ban ISKCON, I mean, which is a world-renowned peaceful Hindu organization. This is clearly double standards. And, can't the interim governments, this can't help the interim government in its own reputation very much?
No, it doesn't actually, and the world is recognizing that what they had thought, that Professor Mohammed Yunus would be a senior Nobel laureate, experienced person who's been running the Grameen Bank for decades, that he would be able to control the situation and able to control any violent or extremist elements. But it's not happened like that. And on the contrary, we saw that when Mohammed Yunus was in New York at the Clinton Global Initiative, he actually called Mahfouz Alam on stage, one of the student leaders, who's actually from the Hizb ut-Tahrir, and told the audience that this is the man who's planned the entire takeover and the entire situation under which Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina had to leave. And he said this has been his mastermind and it's been meticulously designed, meticulously planned. So obviously this has been something that Professor Mohammed Yunus has revealed to the world, but it shows that the Jamaat-e-Islami and the Islamist organizations who are behind it, and they are not wanting to be controlled. They're not willing to be controlled by any kind of sense. They're not wanting elections to be held. They're talking about constitutional reform, removing the provisions for secularism and democracy, talking about a caliphate, talking about Sharia law. It is a very confusing situation, and Government of India has said from the first day that we are willing to talk to the Government of Bangladesh. We are willing to continue our normal relationship, continue the projects that we had started with the Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's government. But there is no response yet. There may be consultations in the month of December, that is being anticipated, but there is no response really on specific issues. There's only a lot of anti-Indian feeling being generated among the people.
And in fact, it's spreading into India as well, because protesters in India seem to think, that India can directly intervene in some way. So what more can India do diplomatically?
Well, diplomatically, India is doing its best. We have spoken to all people. We've spoken to Mr. Mohammed Yunus. We've sent note verbal, and we are doing our very best. We've also said we are willing to talk about projects. We know that the Bangladesh economy is in a complete mess. Factories are shut, and the economic production has gone down. Inflation is rising very, very fast. Even food security is not there, and India has been exporting tens of thousands of tons of rice to Bangladesh to help the people. people. So humanitarian aid, everything we're willing to provide. But the law and order situation has to be controlled by the local government, and we really hope that the Bangladesh government will be serious about this and will give it the top priority to bring the situation back to normal. You cannot run a country where everybody's on the streets every day. And
Right.
sometimes it's one group like the ISKCON, sometimes it's another group like the Hindus, third group like the Jamaat-e-Islami, and they're all clashing with each other. It's a very dangerous situation, and we certainly hope that the government of Bangladesh shows some seriousness in getting it back under control.
Now, ISKCON is a global organization, so how do you think ISKCON, should be handling the situation? After all, ISKCON also distanced itself from Chinmoy Krishna Das, but they do say that at the end of the day that, they are for the rights of the minorities in Bangladesh.
Oh yes, there are two institutions, Ramakrishna Mission and ISKCON. Right since 1971, they've been helping the people, whoever is in need, food and clothes and shelter, anytime, right from the Liberation War onward, they've been doing this. And now, actually, the ISKCON, has come. The government is right to ban it, but there's complete confusion on that, because when the Attorney General went to the High Court refused to ban it and said let the executive take a decision, and there seems to be no reason why this should be banned. And I think the question of ISKCON making that statement about Chinmoy Prabhu seems to have been a kind of a face-saving device. They wanted ISKCON to disassociate itself from the rallies in order that ISKCON would then not be banned. But then today the news has come that maybe they're even freezing the bank accounts, some of the ISKCON.
Yes. No, in fact, that news is true. That's the news that we've got from our correspondent. 17 personnel, 17 people who are associated with ISKCON, their bank accounts have been frozen. Right.
Yes, so they're trying to restrict the activities of all the secular institutions. I remember when in September, when there were attacks on the Buddhists in Khagrachari, the army was involved, army soldiers were involved, and the Buddhists could not even celebrate their major festival because of the attacks and the destruction of their monasteries and their idols and the destruction of their homes. So it is a very difficult situation, and I think the world has to play an even bigger part in reminding Bangladesh about the secularism and democracy in their constitution, and about bringing the semblance of normalcy to life in Bangladesh, so that even the economic situation can improve from the dismal situation it has gone into right now.
We leave it there. Thank you very much, Ambassador Veena Sikri. Thank you for enlightening us on the situation in Bangladesh. Now, moving on to our next story, Prasar Bharati has organized the prestigious Dr. Rajendra Prasad Memorial Lecture of 2024 in Delhi, commemorating the birth anniversary of the former president. The lecture is an annual feature in the calendar of events of Akashvani, and this has happened since 1969. The deputy chairman of the Rajya Sabha, Hari Vansh, has delivered this lecture, the Dr. Rajendra Prasad Memorial Lecture this year, and he touched upon the rapid strides that India has taken during the last few decades.
में भारत विश्व की 5वीं बड़ी अर्थव्यवस्था बन गया है। अनुमान है कि वर्ष 2030 के पहले ही भारत अमेरिका और चीन के बाद विश्व की तीसरी सबसे बड़ी अर्थव्यवस्था बन जाएगा। कोई संयोग नहीं ये सफलता, ये प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी की सरकार द्वारा सावधानीपूर्ण बनाई गई नीतियों का परिणाम है। इस विकास नीति के जिसने भारत को दुनिया में आज इतना ताकतवर बनने की ओर बढ़ा दिया है, या ताकतवर बन चुका भारत एक रूप में, उसकी स्पष्ट नीति है।
The CEO of Prasar Bharati, Gaurav Dwivedi, said that the event touches upon the known and unknown episodes in the life of Dr. Rajendra Prasad.
1969 से लगातार चल रही इस व्याख्यानमाला में मुझे लगता है कि ये एक नया अच्छा अध्याय जुड़ा है। डॉक्टर राजेंद्र प्रसाद जी के जीवन के भी जुड़े हुए जो संस्मरण हैं वो हमको बताए। बहुत सी अनसुनी बातें जो हम लोगों को भी नहीं पता थी कि उनका व्यक्तित्व कैसा था, और भारत के निर्माण की एक आधारशिला रखने में जो उनकी एक प्रमुख भूमिका थी, उसको हम लोगों ने जाना और समझा। भारत की स्थिति दुनिया में तेज़ी से बदली है, उसके क्या कारण हैं, उसके क्या आयाम हैं, और आने वाले वर्षों में क्या उसकी दिशा और दशा होगी, उसके बारे में भी माननीय उपसभापति जी ने हमको बात अपनी बताई।
Let's take a look now at other stories making the news. The Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman reached Patna on Friday. This is for her 2-day visit to Bihar. And during this visit, she is going to distribute loans worth 1,300 crore rupees among the youth of the state. The Union Law Minister, Arjun Ram Meghwal, provided an update on judicial vacancies in response to a query in Parliament on Friday. He stated that there are currently 2 vacancies in the Supreme Court, 364 in the High Courts, and 5,245 in district courts. The air quality in the national capital of India, Delhi, remained in the very poor category as the AQI was recorded at 332 as per the Central Pollution Control Board on Friday. The great-grandson of the tribal icon Bhagwan Birsa Munda, Mangal Munda, passed away on Thursday night in Ranchi after suffering injuries from a road accident. Still to come here on DD India News Hour. Game 4 of the World Chess Championship ends in a draw. Gukesh to play white next.
In this special episode, we are looking at the Indian diaspora and its significant contributions to the growth and the visibility of India on the world stage.
India is, drastically progressing.
Many occasions like COVID and economical crisis and political crisis time and all, India was standing with Sri Lanka.
They migrated to Mauritius to search of gold. Okay, it's being said that. But what happened today is that because of them, because of their resilience, their hard work, they have transformed our country.
I always consider Trinidad and Tobago to be my motherland, but I would refer to India as our grandmotherland.
You're watching DD India News. I'm Mark Lynn. The Union Home Minister and the Minister of Cooperation Amit Shah inaugurated the 59th DGPs and IGPs Conference 2024 in Bhubaneswar in Odisha today. And the Union Home Minister Amit Shah also conferred the police medals for meritorious service to officers of the Intelligence Bureau, and he released the Ministry of Home Affairs' book on ranking of police stations 2024. Amit Shah also awarded trophies to the 3 best police stations. The Prime Minister Narendra Modi will chair the proceedings on the 2nd and the 3rd days of the conference. Speaking on the occasion, the Home Minister said that the focus should be on emerging security challenges along the eastern border, immigration, as well as trends in urban policing. A special curtain raiser conclave, Mahakumbh 2025 Prelude, a curtain raiser conclave, was held in New Delhi on Friday. The Kumbh Mela is a major pilgrimage and festival in Hinduism where tens of millions of pilgrims, religious scholars, philosophers and preachers gather at one place. And it is also listed by UNESCO as an intangible cultural heritage of humanity. The curtain raiser event was attended by Culture and Tourism Minister Gajendra Singh Shekhawat, who highlighted the key features of the Kumbh festival.
The Kumbh Mela is a unique confluence of faith, tradition and the social harmony. Millions of pilgrims and visitors from all across the world come together to partake in this extraordinary event. We are committed to ensuring that this event is not just a pilgrimage, but a vibrant celebration of diversity where every participant can share their stories and experiences. I will make sure to prove the saying that if you wish to see India, which is a continent-sized country in itself, at one place and in one go, the Kumbh is the only occasion.
China has discovered gold reserves worth 600 billion yuan, that's $82.9 billion, in Hunan province, potentially the largest ever found. The deposit, located in Pingjiang County, It contains 40 gold veins at depths of up to 2 kilometers. China is the world's largest gold producer and has accounted for 10% of global output in 2023. Despite this discovery, the country has to rely on imports to meet domestic demand, as it consumed 741.7 metric tons of gold in the first 3 quarters of the year, while producing only 268.1 ton. In a second edition of the Geomundo 2024, the geotechnical engineers, geoscientists and professionals, and also researchers from around the world participated in the international conference organized by the Nepal Geotechnical Society. The focus of this conference was to discuss geotechniques for sustainable infrastructure. Lectures on civil engineering advances that have shifted towards the creation of sustainable, resilient and environmentally conscious infrastructure driven by global dynamics, urbanization and climate change were delivered. The keynote speakers from the United States, India, South Korea, Japan, Taiwan, New Zealand, Australia and Kazakhstan shared their experiences and expertise in the 2-day-long conference. A 3-day exhibition of the 4th edition of the Plast Nepal 2024 ongoing in Kathmandu under India's Plastic Export Promotion Council. 45 stalls from Indian companies were on show to promote business-to-business contact. The exhibition has participation from more than 150 companies from 5 countries. Nepal has a substantial demand for plastic products due to increasing population and demand. The plastic industry in Nepal is estimated to be worth around Nepalese rupees 60 billion. That's approximately $500 million US dollars.
So I am Pradeep Pradhan. With this exhibition, we are going to renew the friendship and also new inquiries, new leads. So networking is especially. We expect more business in the segment and to them understand the requirement, technicalities, after-sales support. So that we are going to explain them. That definitely will boost our business here.
You're watching DD India News Hour. Time now for the sports news. And the International Cricket Council's Executive Board could not achieve a consensus with the Pakistan Cricket Board on the much-awaited Champions Trophy schedule. The board will reconvene in the next few days and work towards a positive resolution of the multi-nation event, which was originally scheduled to take place in Pakistan from February to March next year. The Board of Control for Cricket in India had already conveyed to the ICC its decision of not travelling to Pakistan for the tournament. The Indian Cricket Board is understood to have asked for a hybrid model for the tournament where they play their games in the UAE. Pakistan, however, has stuck to its stance and has insisted that the entire tournament be played in Pakistan. The Indian chess grandmaster D. Gukesh has held the world champion from China, Ding Liren, to a draw in the 4th game of the World Chess Championship on Friday. The game ended in a draw in 42 moves. Gukesh was playing the back pieces. He overcame a shaky initial phase, but established equality. And the World Championship match is now tied at 2-2 after 4 games. The first player to reach 7.5 points from 14 games overall will win this prestigious title. The star Indian shuttler PV Sindhu moved a step closer to clinching the women's title, registering a straightforward game win. This is to advance to the semi-finals of the Saeed Modi International Super 300 Badminton Tournament on Friday. Meanwhile, the Indian male shuttler Lakshay Sen booked his place in the semi-finals. Sen defeated compatriot Luwang Maisnam in straight sets, 21-8, 21-19 in the men's singles quarterfinal. Cities across the globe are warming up for the Christmas festivities as the crowds throng the venues decked up for the arrival of Santa Claus. Let's take a look at some of the dazzling attractions. Well, roses in full bloom in Australia, in the country, nestled within the walls of Tasmania, the UNESCO World Heritage listed property. It has the state's largest rose collection. The sprawling 1.5 hectare garden at Woolmer's Estate at Longford in northern Tasmania is largely maintained by about a dozen volunteers. Well, India's public broadcaster Prasar Bharati has recently launched Waves, which is an OTT platform. And Waves provides a complete infotainment ecosystem to digital media and OTT audiences. So if you want great content, from which is free also, then you can download Waves today. So it's available on the Play Store. That's all we have for you in this edition of DD India News Hour. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. My name is Mark Lynn. From all of us here in Delhi, thank you very much for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.